Hello, World of Tank Blitzers. Hey, it's Littlefinger, and I've got a few pieces of news before we get into the full tank review on the PZ-34. If you look in the top left, no longer with Mom. Made the decision a couple weeks ago primarily to find a clan that was more competitive in some of these tournaments and clan wars. And to be quite honest, I'm probably average to below average player in this clan. So it's been a good move so far, and been able to tune with some really good players. Also, you'll notice a new garage. Yes, this is the premium garage for the update 4.6 now. My understanding is that the old premium garage is your standard garage if you don't carry premium accounts. So with that, let's jump into the review of the PZ-34, which obviously is a German tier 5 medium tank. It's got some really good mobility. Gun is also pretty good. Obviously, it does have some weak spots. The armor is not great on this tank, but you will get a few bounces because it does have some nice sloped armor. Let's take a quick look here. Comes with the L43 7.5 centimeter gun. Really not a lot of difference between these two guns. If you see here, our penetration number drops only 7 from the tier 4 to the tier 5 gun. Our dispersion obviously gets a little bit better as we go up to the L48. But apart from that, not a lot difference. So here's the tech tree. PZ-34 is close to the bottom there, just above the Leopard. If you stay in this line, you're going to go down through the VK 3001D and 3002D. Again, all of these three tanks I would put in the same class. Nothing really stands out wonderful about them. They're not really tanks that you're going to want to keep. But when you do get to the Indian and the Leopard PT and the Leopard 1, I really enjoyed these tanks. Obviously, it does take a very unique gameplay because these tanks don't have very good armor. So you have to be pretty nimble to get your shots in without getting return fire. I would recommend, however, going down the Leopard VK 2801 SP1C and then up to the Indian. I think that's a much more enjoyable grind. The Leo and the VK 2801 are tanks you'll want to keep. And the SP1C is actually pretty fun to play too. So is the RU251 for that matter. Totally different playstyle from the Indian, but you know, the choice is yours, obviously. As far as consumables on this tank, repair kit, multi-purpose, and adrenaline, provisions, running chocolate, protective kit, and standard fuel. Ammunition here, don't even have a full loadout. You can see 42 rounds of AP, 15 rounds of APCR, and 9 rounds of HE, which I rarely use. So, looking real quick at the equipment as a tier 5, please do not spend any spare parts on this tank. I am currently running gun rammer to get that rate of fire up a little bit. The penetration at 110 I feel is quite sufficient, so 115 really is not going to make too much of a difference. I'm running improved modules. I don't really know how much of a difference the defense system would make, but obviously this being a little bit of a lighter tank, just trying to do a little bit of extra protection against ramming. Improved optics obviously gets our view range up to 263, which is quite good because this is a mobile tank, and you don't get quite as much of a benefit using camouflage on mediums, so that's why I recommend the improved optics. So again, do not spend spare parts on anything in level 2 or 3. So now we'll take a quick look at the tank comparisons with the other tier 5 mediums using blitzstars.com. You can see we've got the PZ-34 on the left, the new Type T-34 from China is second there, and it's very, very similar to the T-34 from the Russian line. The PZ-4 has the same gun, so you're going to see a lot of the same stats with that tank. The Chinook, the Sherman 5, which is the British version of the Sherman, and the M4 Sherman. Obviously, there's a few more mediums, but this is pretty good for comparison's sake. So damage per minute at 1318. We are close to the bottom. It's slightly disappointing. Penetration of 110. Again, we are close to the bottom. Only the Sherman 5 with the 106 pen is worse. All these guns pretty much do 160 hit points of damage. And the other thing with this gun, you'll see here, 790 is your shell velocity. So it's pretty much mid-range for most of these mediums. Obviously, the T-34 has a smaller caliber gun with a higher shell velocity. Moving on down to weapon handling, you see here our aim time at 2.08 seconds, kind of right in the midline there. Again, nothing great, nothing special. Dispersion of 0.35 is right in the middle again. And your dispersion on movement is 0.15. The gun depression is a -6 degrees. Again, you know, it's not the worst, but it's far from the best. So another kind of mediocre disappointment, so to speak. Movement and mobility. You can see here we are at 55 kilometers per hour, which is tops in the class. You're going to be a little bit faster than the rest of these mediums. We have a nice big 644 horsepower, and our terrain resistance right there is 1. So we're getting an effective horsepower per ton of 26, which is quite nice. So the tank moves really well, and I would say that's probably the only main thing that really stands out with this. Obviously, the gun's pretty good. You've got the German accuracy, but overall, the tank is kind of just average. Okay, so moving into miscellaneous and extras, you can see here credit coefficient of 146 is best in class. View range 243. Well, that's worst in class. Hit point 680. Again, bottom of class. Weight 24.67 tons. Hull armor 60. Obviously, that's towards the top there, but it's only 10 millimeters more than most of these other mediums. And you've got guns that are typically doing 100 millimeters of pen or more. So really, this armor is kind of futile, to be honest with you. And then the turret armor is 50 millimeters. Just looking down here, win rate 57. The tank does do pretty well overall compared to its peers over the last 90 days. You know, only the damage there at 771. So keep those in mind as a barometer for how you're playing this tank, and try to exceed those numbers. Alright, so first game here, Mayan Ruins, bottom tier. One of the things with Mayan Ruins, I really feel that if you can control the middle of this map, it's a little bit like Mines. It gives your team a huge advantage. So whenever possible, I like to come up to the middle here and see if I just can't get some spots in. You can see we've got the SU coming down to the right. No one else has been spotted, so at this point in time, I'm thinking they've all gone down to the river. And, you know, I'm not going to be a hero here. I'm going to stick with my team and use this tank's mobility to kind of flank around and see if I can't get some of these guys from behind. So as I'm flanking around here, you see we pick up on the KV-1. He's dropping off the hill there, and get a nice shot into the back of him. So now I'm debating kind of which way do I go. So I'm going to continue round through their spawn. And there's a nice spot around here with the bush. So we'll just get back here, and sure enough, KV still hasn't moved on. And we've got a big target with his rear facing us. And so we're going to drop adrenaline. And this guy has no idea where we are. We are 200 meters away, and we're in a bush. So we finish him off without even getting spotted. T1 Heavy is up there. If I can just get him to pull forward, we should be able to finish him off. But doesn't look like he's going to do so. T21 showing the top of the turret there, so we'll finish him off. And we're up a tank for now. And things are looking good. Most of their other tanks are kind of on the other side near our spawn, so I'm going to push that way. You can see we're doing about 25 kilometers up a fairly steep hill. The game is now tied. And gonna put a speculative shot in there at that AMX. And he gets taken out by the KV-1S. Now, I was going to run down into the river area, but since I was missing a tank, I didn't want to run into two tanks. Kind of just trying to be a little bit cautious here. Now we've got the T-37 one-on-one with him, obviously a tier higher than us, and we've got about the same amount of hit points. So he's got the autoloader. We're going to trade shots there, and he's going to bounce the first one, and I think he kind of rushed that third shot, so now he's on a long reload, so we want to try to use our mobility to catch up with him. Unfortunately, I kind of hit the rock there and missed that shot, so I ended up having to track him there and finish him off with that shot. So now we're 2-on-2. KV-1S obviously just a one shot at this point in time. He's got 4 hit points left, and there's that SU-100Y. He can pretty much do some serious damage to me. That's a huge shame that that shot got a little bit too close to that gun mantlet and didn't penetrate. Obviously the weak spots on the 100Y are towards the cheeks. So I don't really want to take on this SU-100Y head on. That's going to be probably a one shot for me. He'd kill me. So we get him coming over the ridge, 171 on that first shot. And unfortunately, we've dropped adrenaline already. And I get 174 on that. And we just didn't do enough to kill him. KV-1S took out the SU-100Y, but the M4 finished the game, and we ended up losing that one in a pretty hard-fought, contested battle. We did get a level 1 mastery out of it and did 1,980 damage, 3 kills. So, you know, that's probably about the best you can hope for out of this tank, really. It's a good flanker, good speed, good mobility, accurate gun from a distance. So second game here is on Port Bay, again, bottom tier. We've got 4 tier 6s, 3 tier 5s. I'm going to ask the team to go right. And I am going to use my speed to cross over the river. And it looks like that Leo was up ahead. He's going to go ahead and get some spots in right here. And so now I am spotted, so I've got to be a little bit cautious here. That Leo's not looking at us, and we missed that first shot, unfortunately. They're all coming around over the ridgeline there. You see we get a nice little bounce. So now we've got a PZ-54 coming at us. Trying to keep an eye out here on this Leo. He's going to go up and over the hill, and we're going to miss another shot. We've missed a couple shots now. So I'm hoping that I've dropped off everyone's radar a little bit and can sneak a shot into that ARL. Keeping an eye on this VK, and you can see here again, just missing that shot. I don't really want to have to deal with the PZ-54 ahead of me. Obviously, he's got some good frontal armor. And I don't really have the room to maneuver around him because I know that a lot of those guys are still sitting up there on that ridge line. So he's taking a shot and got us. We're going to aim for that commander's hatch and not be able to penetrate. But luckily he is looking elsewhere at another target. So I'm going to push on up here, and we are not going to penetrate, even though it showed that we probably should have been able to. But I need to aim for that lower plate, which we do there, and set him on fire. Do 300 damage with that shot, which is nice. And he's coming at us. We're still aiming low, and there's nothing we can do here. We're going to take a shot. He tracks us, but luckily we can get around and use our maneuverability to shoot into the side of the tank. And really, he should have stayed in front of us. Get a nice shot there on the Firefly from a distance. So it looks like we're going to finish this one out. Both of these guys are one shot here, so I'm just going to be patient and wait for the VK to make a mistake. And I rushed that shot just a little bit, but we're on the reload, and he's going to back up the hill, show us just a little bit of the tank, and we will finish him off for kill number 2. So we managed to do 1,225 damage. That was good for second most damage on the team, even as the bottom tier. And you can see how we cautiously played it there. I didn't rush up and get myself into trouble, knowing I had teammates behind me. Alright, so this game's on Mirage as top tier. Obviously this tank does fare a lot better being top tier. On Mirage, there's a spot here close to the flag that I like to go to. I can use the bush there to hide. We've got an AMX running right at us, so we actually track him there, and he misses his shot. Now, obviously, he does not have a fully rotational turret, and again, he bounces. Only difficulty there is he's so low that I had a hard time getting that shot in. So, yeah, we managed to get away from that YOLOing flying biscuit without taking any damage. Now we've got an M4, and we're going to manage to get around him using our mobility without taking a shot. Track that PZ-34 on top of the hill, unfortunately not doing any damage. And now we've got a couple tanks. Kind of hard to see with all those boxes and everything how that KV was angled, but this tank is going to struggle a little bit with a nicely angled KV. You know, your pen numbers are about 115, so KV goes 100, and so if it's angled nicely, it can obviously be more. So you see a little bit of a frustration there. We didn't fully aim that in, and we ended up missing it. SU-85 is going to drop behind the hill there, and again we're going to use our mobility, try to push in there, but decide not to once I see that AMX up there as well. We can shoot the cheeks of the turret there, as long as he doesn't move out of our way. But mostly all red if you look at that tank. We'll aim for the front and finish him off. 3 tanks left. It's 4 on 3. Going to use our mobility here to try to get around the SU, but he gets taken out before we get there. And there's that PZ-34 again. I'm going to drop adrenaline, try to help out this KV, and I noticed that other KV was there, so no point pushing up any further than that. We can obviously penetrate the side of a KV without problems. The front, however, if he's angled straight on, we can get that top plate there. And so this was a good team. We managed to actually get out of that game without taking any damage whatsoever, which was kind of a miracle with all of those tanks around us. We did 1838 in damage, good for Top of the team, there's 13 shots, and it looks like we got damage in on 6 of the 7 tanks. Alright guys, got another game here on Castilla, bottom tier. Call is right, which is fine with me. This game kind of shows you the mobility of this tank. Quickly up to 50, 55 kilometers per hour. Power up the hill here. Just stop there briefly to see where the rest of the team was going. And we're going to be a little cautious coming around here. And down the hill, up over the little shortcut here. And trying to spot these guys over at the windmill, because that's obviously the way that they've gone. No one's popping up. We got a couple guys going over the bridge, a couple guys going to the right of me around there through their spawn area. So I'm just gonna be a little bit patient here, throw in a couple shots just out of speculation that they might be hiding in those bushes over there. Since I don't have great armor, I am gonna stay back a little bit and just wait for my teammates to do some spotting for me. Sure enough, there's a KV-1 over there at the windmill. They are behind the building here, so I'm going to slide on down. Lucky I don't get stuck on these rocks, and we're going to cross over the water and up into what I like to call as the Bushka spot. He did a long review on this spot up here and some of the benefits of this location on this map. So we've got one guy behind us, and most everyone is in front of us now. There's the Fury from a distance. We're now spotted after shooting. Get 2 shots into him. Decide not to push my luck too much here. Can't get that shot in, but we take a speculation just in case. Got some guys coming up from behind me. I'm a little bit of trouble here. So we'll get a shot in on the Leo, and just keeping an eye on the guys right beside me, just on the other side of the building. There's the VK. We'll get a shot into his side, and he starts to look at us, so we back up, using that building for protection while we reload. We've got 2 heavies down there. One taken out. Oh, and there is the M4. Will finish him. The Fury will finish him off. And now we've got to deal with this VK. And you'll see here we get a nice, fortunate bounce. But we cannot finish him off before he shoots us. 3-4 damage we take there, but we finish him off. 230 health left. We've got the Anko and one other tank. The Leo, looks like. Get a track shot into him. He repairs it. He's going around the building, trying to get another shot in. But he gets killed before I can get the kill shot. And there is the Leo. Pretty good game by this team. But you can see the flexibility of the Bushka spot there allowed us to shoot the Leo behind us, shoot the tanks that were down in the valley area and also in the cap area. So we ended up doing 1652 damage, 2 kills. Good for level 2 mastery on that. Just under the ARL in damage. 11 shots landed. So very mobile tank. Gonna get you to the fighting pretty quick. Alright guys, here's another game on Mayan Ruins. This time I'm top tier. Got a team of a lot of mediums and lights here, so we're gonna push left pretty hard as one big group. So I'm kind of throwing away my strategy of going middle, expecting them all to be down here, and as you can see, they start popping up quickly. Gonna just crest over this hill, see if we can't get some gun depression here. And tuck ourselves in behind this rock. Leo has shot, so he's on a reload. We'll finish him off after missing that first shot. They're all lined up down here, no protection whatsoever. So you can see here the difference in play style of being out in the open versus giving yourself at least an option to back behind covers after you have shot. So we've got a couple shots in on the AMX now. There's one into the side cheek without any problems. T-34 is out here on his own. Unfortunately, hit a little bit of a bounce in the terrain, and timing wasn't good with my shot. Saw that shot go over my head, so I know I've got someone behind me, so I'm going to turn around, and we'll use our speed to stay away from the SAU and get behind him. Obviously, he can't do any damage when he can't turn and shoot. So we have managed to pretty much go down in their front line without taking a shot at this point in time. KV1 a shot. We need to get down and get our gun depression down. So you can see here, even with the KV1 shooting kind of slightly angled, we're going to have some issues. So I switch over to APCR just to make sure that that shot penetrates. Probably could have gone over to AP on that as he was facing us forward. It's only really when he starts to fully angle, you see how it goes red. And once he turns sideways to us, not a problem. He's angled again, so I want to switch over to APCR, and we'll go ahead and get the kill shot in there. So 3 kills so far. Four tanks left for us, and just this one tank here. Missed that shot, and I'm just going to rush up and kind of just using that pillar in front of us as a little cover. Kind of dodging, weaving a little bit, making it a little bit more difficult to hit us, but he gets taken out. We finish this game with 1702 damage and 3 kills. But again, good example of the mobility of the tank, using its speed to your advantage. Okay, so this is the last game I'm going to show you. There's a couple interesting things in this game I do want to point out. But obviously we are top tier here on Fort Despair. And just kind of being patient at the beginning, waiting to see which way our team goes. And you see here, I'm knocking these trees over and creating myself some soft cover. And I'm just hanging back. There's not much point, I don't think, especially in this tank without a ton of armor, to pushing forward and getting yourself into a whole heap of trouble by spotting 5 or 6 tanks. So as you see here, they are going to push, and they're pushing hard. And because we've stayed back here by this rock, we can use it as cover from the rest of their team. And we're just going to try to keep the front of our tank towards the Lux here as he unsuccessfully tries to drive through our entire team. So we're going to go back now. They didn't follow him up. No one is spotted. So by now we're off the radar. And we are not spotted either. T1 Heavy's pushed up the hill there, and you can see missed that first shot. We know the side of the turret, the cheeks there, are the weak points, so go ahead, and that's a bigger target than some of the soft spots on the front of that tank. So we have the Sherman up in front of us, just trying to be patient, waiting for him to peek around, which he does there, and we get that next shot into him. He's down to a 1 shot now. KV1 here, and this guy has a really good game, and that's not surprising, as KV in a top tier game is should do really well. But you can see there, we had a little bit of issue with the gun depression, so I've got reorganized here so I won't. Was hoping that the Sherman would point around and we could finish him off. I see the VKs pushing forward, so I'm going to go with him. We get spotted there, and we do get the Sherman before we get shot. So now we've got a couple of guys, the AMX and the Hetzer are down to our left. Obviously this KV is sitting there. You can see how he's angled up. Unfortunately that shot goes into the tracks and we don't do any damage. So now I'm just going to try to peek and see if he's looking, and sure enough he was. We get another shot, but again, track him, get a fortunate bounce there from the PZ4. You can see here we're working on a little bit of gun depression issue, but you can see how I take my shot and move forward behind that rock, and then pull back, angled. There's the Hetzer. We're going to let that aim in, but we're going to aim a little bit too low. So now we can't get a shot on the side of the Hetzer. That's kind of a long distance shot, not very accurate. T1's down here with the one shot, so he's turned sideways. We'll finish him off. It's 3-on-3 at this point in time. And what I wanted to point out with this was, you watch this KV, he does a good job of staying angled and moving. So you can see I can shoot him right there, not a problem. But when we pull back forward, he'll do a real good job. Now, I don't know why that VK has rushed out, but you see how he is moving forward and backwards, and he looked at me, didn't shoot, and now he's going to turn and take out the VK. Unfortunate that one bounced because he's probably a two-shot at that point in time, whereas he would be dead at this point in time and I wouldn't have to worry about him. However, the PZ4 pushes me. I was hoping I could get low and around this rock before the KV comes in, but he gets my engine, finishes me off, and then the PZ4. So we end up losing this battle, but I wanted to point out just the good work that KV did, being angled, moving back and forth. But we still did 1581 damage. Obviously, our team didn't help us out too much. So, obviously you saw there, this tank's got some good mobility. It has questionable armor, but you're going to get a few bounces at times. And it does have a fairly accurate gun. I'm not going to need too much APCR unless you come up against a heavy that's angled properly. So, hopefully you guys learned a few tricks here to make yourself better players in this tank and overall better players. And as always, guys, stay safe out there. Have fun. Get educated. Not fingered. Little finger out.